Good morning, colleagues. And we'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the meet for Finance and Audit Committee, November 10, 2022. Since this committee does not currently have a chair and one of its members away, Vice Chair Valike, I would like to suggest that temporarily chair this meeting since I'm an ex officio member. There's a problem. Oh, fine. Thank you. So I will begin with the land acknowledgement. I'd like to recognize that Ottawa is located on unceded territory of Algonquin and Anishinaabe host nation. The peoples of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and present have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The Ottawa Police Service Board honors the people and the land of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe nation. Today, Ottawa is home to approximately 40,000 First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. Ottawa's Indigenous community has diverse representation in many nations, language, and customs. The Ottawa Police Service Board honors all First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. I will now proceed with the confirmation of the agenda. Item number 1. Confirmation of the agenda that the Finance and Audit Committee confirmed the agenda of November 10, 2022 meeting. Is the agenda confirmed? Sure, thank you. Confirmation of minute. We have minute dated back to the minute 2.1, number 17 of January 13, 2022, that the Finance and Audit Committee confirm minute 17 of the 13th January 2022. So since these minutes, they were taken, none of us was on the board. All what we can do, we can receive them and just leave them the way. So is the committee not comfortable confirming the minute because this meeting was before we joined the board, we can just receive it. So can we just receive them? And okay, thank you. Item number 3 is declaration of interest. I see none. Item 4, item of business is we only have one item of business today. I understand there's a presentation. It's budget development and direction. So CAO Dunker, I will turn things over to you to introduce this item and the presentation, and perhaps you can introduce your team to us. And one CAO Dunker introduce you. Can you please give us a wave so we know who you are? Turn it to you.
Thank you, Chair. So I have Paul Smith here. He's the Chief Financial Officer. He's been doing a lot of work with the state since we started in around April. So he'll get a chance actually to be part of the presentation today. And Jonathan, he's been the finance director. And with a lot of support with me and my organization. So they are the folks that crunch all of the numbers, all of the rely heavily on. Okay, with that, I'll start out the presentation. So thank you for continuing the meeting for us today. We're here today to seek some input on an approach as we move to develop the budget. So the budget timelines are the end issue because of the election. So the city requires that our numbers by early December. So it doesn't give us too much time, about 5 weeks. In saying that, we don't have any formal direction from the city around what our tax increase target should be at this point. And I understand we'll be coming out later in November. But we can get some preliminary advice around what we should be thinking about. And that was a 2 to 2.5%. And so within this document, when we get to the third page, you'll see that we have, for illustrative purposes, set out, 2 scenarios. So one, I didn't do 2% because I think I feel like it would be quite impossible to manage within a 2% envelope and result in no additional expenses and cuts. So I did put the 2.5.
Sorry, the vice chair is on the phone. She likes to hear the phone.
Oh.
Suzanne Valike is on the phone. So just keep the phone beside you or beside.
So, but we did put the 2.5% scenario and the 3% scenario, which the chief financial officer will walk us through in a minute. And the 3% includes 25 new resources. You'll recall from the August HR committee meeting of the board that we did present strategic staffing strategy, which asked for 60, which laid out 60 new resources. So 25 is obviously a far cry from 60. But given the fiscal situation and the early advice we're getting, we're just showing 2.5 and 3%. We're not showing 60 today. So with that, I'll just continue. I'm just speaking now and I'm not following my presentation, so let me have a look back on the presentation to make sure I covered everything. So in terms of building out our preliminary budget, we're obviously using the previous board strategic plan because we don't have a new current plan. So it builds on those previous commitments around maintaining and improving services and driving change. And the second bullet under considerations like this and some of the things that we had budgeted through that strategic plan. And I wasn't here in 2021, but I believe that there was extensive consultations with the public as well, and that helped inform our priorities. So we are indicating, and I think it's in line with Mayor-elect's some of the narrative the Mayor-elect has had throughout the election period around looking at adding resources to violence against women, hate and violence, crime and gun violence. And we're also prioritizing frontline resources for neighborhood policing. And I think we talked a lot about strengthening the demonstration plan and decreasing intelligence. So those are some of the priority areas. This conversation and deck doesn't include a lot of details or description because it was really just meant to get a sense of where we would like us to go in terms of approach. So the context around the development for the budget I have spoken to a little bit, and I did mention the previous deck that we brought forward at the HR committee. I also wanted to mention that I think we've been discussing this all year in terms of as we brought forward the quarterly financial reports, we've indicated the difficulties we're having as we move forward in terms of balancing our budget. So we have been able, or we're on track to balancing for 2022, but we've been indicating that 2023 onwards is going to be very difficult. So we did manage in the neighborhood of, we have to manage in the neighborhood of $15 million in pressures, which we have found solutions for. But part of that, as I mentioned at the last board meeting, was related to the vacancy management, and part of it is from that agency that we're managing the commitments we have with the federal government for administration, which hopefully will not be the case next year. So I just wanted to mention that from the get-go, as we move into next year, we're going to have pressures. We've lost flexibility. The 7.05 million efficiency target that we've had to manage all year. So we've already done our line-by-line reviews over and over, and the cupboards are there. So I'm not expecting a lot of flexibility next year. And additionally, we do tend to rely on some vacancy management savings. And in the organization right now, the message is recruit. We can't afford to have any more vacancies. We need to be vacancies to keep the business running and to ensure commitments. So we're not going to have the flexibility of vacancies. We're going to keep that pressure on the organization to recruit. And we're doing a very good job of that. I just looked at the numbers recently and noted that we have a less than 2% on the sworn side, which is a very strong number, and the civilian side is coming down close to less than 5%. So that we're seeing big improvement in that. So I just wanted to mention that. So I'm going to move to, and then also just in terms of a reminder, and I know you're well aware of this, 7.02 million efficiency target that was given to us, we have identified 3 million of that permanent, ongoing reductions starting this year and continuing in 2023. But we're still missing 4 million at the beginning of 2020. So we'll have it for 2022. We're balanced, but going forward, we still need to identify 4 million. So I'm going to turn the next slide, which is the table, over to Hollis.
Members of the meeting for giving us the opportunity to talk about the finances. In this part, I will just explain to us how we put together the budget, how we track our financial factors and the new things in the simplified version of the budget. Also, we will explain how I will also explain how we came up with 25% and 3%. What kind of efforts we have already included in these numbers, and how and what those percentages mean for us in the coming year. So basically, this chart starts from the baseline of last year's budget, the full budget of 2022, and this chart only captures those changes or those additions or those new things from last year's budget. So the first item is for us just to maintain the current services, and the big chunk of this would be natural salary increases. As all the salary increases are already reflected here, as some staff increases, and as the new contract, the union contract settlements that would require us to prepare for additional expenses, as well as to maintain the services for a lot of inflationary pressures, like all everything prices have gone up. We also have multiple year contracts, for example, our leases or contracts for services. Those are multi-year contracts, and already the increases have already been requested by the vendors and also reflected. So basically, what I'm trying to say is the first item of maintain the services. This is a natural factor. And myself and the finance colleagues, we have done line by line review with all the budget holders to make sure that we can reduce all these things. So basically, at the minimum, we need $11.7 million just to keep our lives current services. Then we also have the pressures from the full-time employee growth. Even like in the first column, even without growth, we still have the $1.7 million of pressure. Let me explain this last. That's because that pressure was from the previous. So in 2022, we initially, at the end of 2021, we initially planned to achieve a growth of 30 in 2022. However, because at that time we did have a hiring rate, we didn't start doing our hiring in 2021. So when we first gathered the budget for 2022, we didn't budget the full implementation for the position. But now, as Blair mentioned, actually we are filling those positions. The latest HR report indicates that those positions will be fully filled. So in 2023, we need to have the full remuneration to be able to compensate themselves. That's why there is a natural $1.7 million of pressure for the previously budgeted position. But meanwhile, if we can have the room to have more officers, like the 25 officers, which is the right-hand side column, we would need another $1.7 million. That's also a discounted amount, right? Because we are planning to have, let's say, if we have the 25 officers, we would spread the hiring of 25 in 3 classes. We don't need to, they will not come in once in January. So that's the additional $1.7 million. Is only the cost we will take that need to be able to hire 25 over the year with the cost. So those are natural pressures. But the new service, actually, we also, that's the effort made by finance to accommodate our tasks, our demands within the percentage. In a euro year, we would budget about $1 million as the placeholder for new service. But this year, because we know that our budgeting situation is removed, we still left that item on the chart, but actually we already removed that amount. So that amount of this year. In a euro year, we would put $1 million, but that would add to the percentage. And again, efficiencies, I think Blair talked about that already. Last year, we were given the task to find $7.5 million efficiency. That's an extraordinary ask for efficiency because usually in a year we probably can find about $2 million worth of efficiency. But that's 7 means additionally $5 million more efficiency. We did balance the year with a lot of savings, but that amount has already reduced our baseline by $7 million. Meaning, in the coming year, we would have to from the beginning of the year, the baseline is reduced by $7 million. That's already a challenging situation. In addition to that, we also put the $1 million additional efficiency. So basically, we wanted to reduce our cost even more so that we can accommodate the current expenses within the 2.5%. So all that said, in those two scenarios, after all the efforts, after all the considerations, after a lot of students, we would still see the operating budget increases in two scenarios. If we don't have 25 growth, it would be $12.3 million additional budget increase. And if it's with the 25 new officers, it would be 14.6. And at the end, those scenarios would mean 2.5% of a police tax target increase or 3% of target increase. I just wanted to make one last comment, which is in either of the scenarios, that's already after a lot of effort already made by the Ottawa Police Service, also by the Ordre. So I will stop here.
And I would just add, we didn't have the third column showing the scenario that we presented in August. But we did feel like it helped us the non-starters, so we show it that was after 4%.
So before we go to question, just to clarify for my own, when you say hire 25 officers and you're only budgeting the increase 1.7 because you want to break the classes, in 3 entries, but that will be on first year 1.7. The second year it will be full cost, which is greater than 1.7. Okay. And the 7.5 efficiency or was asked the service to find. Was there's any direction how we're going to find that efficiency? Like was any case was to reduce staff perhaps or to because when you say we balance it, well, I know how you balance it. Going to the reserve, that's not balancing budget. That's just one time you took some money from it, you put it here. That's not really balancing budget. That's just borrow money to go on holiday, basically, which is not a great idea. I keep telling my wife that. So explain to us the efficiency target. How will you be able to find that efficiency?
So I will explain first, and I will also ask my colleague Jonathan to help providing the details. So in 2022, the efficiency, the real of the efficiency, we identified and implemented about $3.1 million of actual efficiency. When I say actual efficiencies, it's based on the initial plan, identify those opportunities where we can change the way we do the business, where we can save money. And the savings were not only materialized in 2022, but also will be carried over for future years. So we call those, that's the $3.1 million as the permanent efficiency, which will benefit us forever. But in 2022, we also planned to have about $4 million of additional efficiencies to meet that percentage of 5. We had a plan because we did have quite a few items. The items could be a combination of what you said this year about saving some of the compensations we would remove, some of the expenses we would save because we are changing the way we do it. And the $4 million we didn't implement in 2022 because in 2022, first of all, we had some savings, like you said, from the vacancies, from other savings, from additional revenue. So we didn't really go for implement those efficiencies. And because also because of the time, because many of the strategic projects or efficiencies projects were not fully implemented. But now, because we are now at the time of doing the budget for 2023, actually we did have to discuss about how we are going to turn those $4 million into permanent efficiencies. So we do have a plan, and that plan I would ask Jonathan to talk. Yesterday we talked about. So the plan is also in that nature, combination of the savings from operations or savings of expenses from doing the business. But
Can I just add like a concrete example of how we found savings would be the outsourcing collision reporting centers where we now have kiosks. So that we did save like a real savings of $550,000, for example. So that just is an illustration of a real savings versus, a vacancy surplus from a position that is.
You said 500, is that in we haven't realized those savings yet. We're going to achieve those in 2023.
I believe we're going to
Yes.
just implement it.
And I hate to be the bearer of the bad news because at the beginning we were promised we will receive. I know Christine is shaking her head before I finish. Yes, but you're right. You can shake your head. Then we were promised to be $1 million generated to the service if we do it in house, and we cannot convince the service. Other example in other police service, they cannot do it in house and make money on it. But our service insists they can do it and save money. Well, guess what? They didn't. And was no saving from the collision center. And now, after 10 years, we take it and go back to the original where we contracted out. If we did it from day one, the saving will be severe today. But anyway, we can't reverse the clock 10 years back, but it is what it is today. But you're right, even that $550,000 is still questionable if it's going to materialize or not.
Well, and on that note, the 4 million, is doing things differently, use your phrase, right? Some of that may not materialize either until 24, 5, 6.
that's I understand the concern, but my answer is that as of today, we do have a solid plan to materialize that $4 million, and that's already feels good baseline. I will ask Jonathan to maybe just to show us how that $4 million.
Yeah, and I can take a step back further. When we did table our budget, we had that $5 million efficiency figure on the page. We had initiatives identified against all of that. We recognized $3 million of that. We still have $2 million of that delta, which is largely the collision reporting center. We have to recognize as well as reducing the hours of front desk services. So that $5 million did have 20 FTE permanent reductions attached to it. We recognized 5 already. And that $3 million we achieved. There's still remaining 15, 14 of which is tied to our front desk. So that's still to come from those changes, and it's still in the plans to come early in 2023. The remaining piece to get to our initial $5 million is further cooling our fleet vehicles. We need a new key watcher system that we're getting, and that will enable us to be able to pool the vehicles in our investigations and intelligence team, enabling us to reduce our fleets further. So that's how our initial plan was to get to that $5 million efficiency target. The additional 2, it was at budget approval that was added to our budget. We never had a plan for that. It was added last minute on us to get us down to 2%. So I have $1 million potentially for that. We did get great news from the province recently about the CSP grants that are based within $1 million higher than we're currently receiving. Community safety is increasing. We use that money for neighborhood and traffic. So there is that as an option or to recognize half of that 2 million left on the fee. It's a 3-year grant, so there's some risk that it might not be there 3 years time, but I'm fairly comfortable taking that risk with that the grant has always been in existence. This is the first time we're seeing it go up. It's always stayed the same. So I'm assuming it's going to stay the same going forward, but again, there's always risk of grant. But, that one I'd be comfortable taking. That'll give you $1 million to the point. That's 7 million, assuming 3 examples I just spoke to come to fruition fully. So that's really, I don't have a solution proposed at this time. But there are some, for example, human assistance where we're doing that program. I don't know what the outcome for that might be, but that is one I have as a TBD with, bridge that gap. So stop there.
Just your phrase front desk, what is that?
So that's our customer service front facing piece of the organization in Headline, Elgin, and Frontmark, where they use the seller click report there, they sell other products there and come in. It looks like a better position to speak to what our front desk doesn't entirely, but there's roughly about 25 million members there. We're seeing that part of the best one is
New report blocking vehicle release.
Just a quick comment. All these cost saving or efficiencies initiatives are already built. So this budget, the 2 scenarios, 2.5 and 50% are already after consideration of having permanent efficiencies from all. So those are already built.
That adds up to $7.45 million. And I'm sorry, just one more time. The additional $4 million that we got in 2022, which is parking enabled by the kiosk program. They're pooling a vehicle counts for another bit. And then what was the third?
the CSP grant.
CSP grant. So it's not really an efficient.
No, it's the revenue and quality.
And the money we receive from the federal government for policing the nation capital, what's that number now? How much gone up from 2 million? What is it now?
So far in this year, we submitted the supplemental funding request that is a total of 57 members. That's up to the third quarter. That's included the local application under employee tender, and that's before the candidate. So that's the funding request. And because we got a cap of premium. Yeah. I think it will be 15%.
Yes, it's a 15%. Not all from us, with our partners that help us, but we are expecting 7 million of that 55 to help balance the budget that the main coverage and breakthrough hour time.
But also we used to receive annual grant from the federal for policing the nation capital. Is it 3 million now? And that's included in the revenue? That would be.
Yeah, we draw on that 3 million, so we exhausted that this year because of the
And so that 3 million over and above, that has nothing to do with the convoy application or any other. This comes to us every year.
That's a grant that we can draw on by showing our expenses against.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. 1% in police revenue, how much will generate to you? 1% in how much will generate to you? You're asking for 2.5% or 3. So 1%, what is it? 4 million?
1%, 1% is
2.6. You know, I know we had the labor force report, and I thought that report was phenomenal. It was a really a roadmap to the budget. And it's okay to say, oh, we want efficiency and go, we're going to freeze hiring and, you know, create efficiency. But even that, it didn't work because when you spend more money on overtime, well, where's the efficiency? Oh, we save you here 5 million, great. But you spend overtime 10. How could that be a good business model for the board to sustain? I mean, in the past, you know, you were directed to go and find efficiency with certain million, and you freeze the hiring, and then we know what happened. How much money did we spend on overtime, labor overtime?
So, last year we budgeted 5.5 million dollars. Right? But in reality, the overtime expenses were way more than that. However, we did have additional revenue covered it because a big portion of the overtime was during the time of and money tender. These are qualified as part of the capital region struggling police. So we had a chance to recover these overtime expenses from the Fed. However, our remaining unrecoverable overtime was still a significant. In addition to that, the overtime actually had a negative impact on wellness and health.
Exactly.
Yeah, just for magnitude purposes, that 1 month for the demonstration expense and years of overtime.
But Jonathan, sorry to interrupt, if we didn't have the demonstration, how much overtime you were drawn on?
7 million for projected.
Okay, so we asked you to save some money by not hiring, and then we spend it on the other hand in the overtime. That should be the message out there for anyone asking to reduce the. If we don't come with a solution, how are you going to find that money? Well, this is not really truthful saving. Because if we say save here and then spend on overtime, I mean, really, is that a good math? Is that good business? I'm sorry, this is we need to talk about this because we had the HR report, you know, the workforce report. We saw the overtime caused by freezing or hiring freezing before. So you didn't hire before, but it didn't stop you from using the overtime. So what kind of savings there? If we hire the people we should have hired, maybe we will be saving today at least 3 or 4 million out of the 7 we have to spend. And it creates so much pressure on the people who's working, and it creates the extra stress, mental health, whatever. It'll create more people off work.
Just to support that opinion, that point, talking about the math, actually, the Jonathan talked about the new projection of overtime is $7 million after the recovery from the national defense. So the $7 million minus the initially budgeted 5.5, that difference is 1.5. That's almost equivalent to how much money we would need to hire the 25 professionals.
This is we have the same from the hospital. This is our discussion at Shield. The same thing with nurses. You know, we have them all working overtime, and they're all getting sick, and they're all stressed out, and they're off on stress leave, and then what's that cost? Same thing in teaching. It's the exact same thing. We have all these occasional teachers. Now we're pulling people off, literally off the street to teach kids.
Blair, go ahead. Sorry, we're venting more because we're trying to hash that big picture. Like the big picture, it has to be told.
Just one other point though, is this conversation though, is the leadership discussion on the budget that up this year. And I'm sure that when he applied for the job, he had a vision. We talked to you about that. That isn't incorporated here at all. The new services, as an example, we've been lucky that we've been able to find some grants for like the call referral program. So we've been able to get some money for that, which is great. But I'm sure that when he was explaining his vision to you, that he had ideas on things he wanted to change, and that people want to see changes, and that currently isn't reflected anywhere on the page. And not that it's their fault; it's just the timing of it. So we briefed him at this level. He's got received this briefing too. He's here in 7 days, something like that. and then his input, the input of the new board members, the mayor, select days, that will all form that November 28th. Just to
I-
complicate it further.
Yeah, okay, I understand this, but I think we all know the budget is the board budget. It's not the chief's budget. So the board will make the budget, will agree to the budget, will ask for the budget, and the chief will deliver the budget. So let's be clear about it.
Oh, no,
So,
I get that.
so
I'm just
it
saying
is,
he might
it is,
have ideas
no,
on
but the budget,
savings.
it is a board budget, and the board need to be honest with themselves and not going by what's so flashy now. Oh, go save us 7.5 million. Okay, freeze, hiring freeze for 2 years. Great idea. And then what? 2 years after, she'll bring me a report. She spent a lot more, double than if she would have hired the people who need to be hired. So that need to be in part of the discussion. So we don't create, oh, Blair, go find me $1 million. Okay, right away, I'll go to the gift shop and find it. So that's what I'm saying. We need to be real. We need to bring back the report, the workforce staffing, put it together. And this is, this is, we need to, how we need to deal with the budget. We need to deal, like Kathy just said, hospitals have the same problem. Why, if we know this is going to cause you a problem, why do you want to continue doing this?
But does the board see a scenario higher than 3?
I didn't say we need to see it higher or lower. What I'm just saying to you, you need to present what you need. We need to decide if it's 2.5 or 3. Or 2.
Or 8. If you honestly, if you present that you needed an 8% then if that's to Eli's point, you have to tell us what you need. That's all we can go on. And if you say it's 15, like we'd have to say, okay, well, what the hell? We're gonna offer 2.5 when they need 15% increase? Like I look at the trades right now where they're saying 7% is a pay cut. And I'm not saying that that's a number. I'm just saying that's a reality in this time right now. So I know people, when we do this in other boards as well, you do try to see how much you can do, the very, very best you can do. But you also need to know what really, if you were asked how much you need, people need to know that.
So, I mean, if it's a board, if it's the committee's recommendation, we can add scenarios in there up to 3 point. I don't think we can add scenarios, higher scenarios than the one that's presented. We have talked to yourself about that, but that is doable.
I understand, but all what I'm saying to you, we need to understand your need. What do you need to run this organization? And the rest should be on us, how we want to manage and which one we do, which one we don't do. So when I hear, oh, we can hire 25 officers, but this is only the budget 1.7. Well, that's the first year you budgeted for. Well, that's not true budgeting that, because the next year you're going to be more to cover. So we need to understand when you are asking us for something, what is it? Like, I mean, oh, we're going to do the collision center. We're going to save your chair $1 million a year. Well, for 10 years, I didn't see $1 million. And now you're telling me, oh, now we contract that we're going to see 6. And okay, I'm sorry to say that, but until I see it, it's still a number in the air. So I want to say to you folks, there is a new mayor, there is a new board. I'm not going to be here, but I want to say to you, your report that you present at HR, that should be your runway to the budget. Mr. New Mayor, Mr. Board, whatever. This is reality here. You want to reduce the workforce? Well, we pay more in overtime. Is that what you want to do? Or can we really tell you what we need and how we're going to create that efficiency here? That's what I'm hoping for. I'm not, honestly, I'm not looking for 2.5, because 2.5 is not 2.5 actually. The 2.5 is 4%, because you're getting the assessment growth on the top of the 2.5%. So that should be counted too. But I'm not interested so much other than I don't want to set ourselves like we did the last board budget. Do hiring freeze and then spend on overtime. That you need to somehow put it in our head. If we're going to do artificial saving, you're going to pay for the end of the year. And all these you're talking about, oh, we're getting this one. This is one time only. Can you read, like other than the 3 million we have from the federal and annual, all these extra expenses, they come and go. Like they give you a grant for more policing for community policing. Great. We get one-time grant, and then the rest of it is pressure on us to find that money. So again, what you have here, I have no issue with it. But what I'm saying to you, you need to present the whole picture and let the board make that decision. And with all due respect to the new chief, yes, the chief had a lot to contribute to the budget, but the budget actually is a board budget. It's not a chief budget.
Okay, so we had a plan. Specifically, new resources. And that's the plan. That's the plan that we had. We had the metrics, the evidence for it. And that's what we would be bringing forward. Is that what you're asking? We could come back and talk about that, show you what that looks like.
I need you to show us. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if I'm the only
No,
one.
I agree. I understand that. I just like, we do have to validate it with the new boss. So I
It's
will
fine.
bring it back. And even the efficiency savings, he might not agree with that. It is his budget to present to you for approval, so we will take the feedback back. If there's any other feedback, but it will be he will be the one signing off on the final budget on our side. That's his role. And then he has to present it to you. And so if he agrees with the 60 with the future staffing initiative, then for sure, then we'll move it forward. But we do have to give him the chance. It is like he must have a bit, like it's not fair to him to, you know what I mean? And unfortunately for him, he's got something like 14 days to get his head around it. But again, so the feedback is great. I understand where you're coming from.
There are the political realities as well, right? Showing us the full budget. I mean, what you're suggesting is what I would have liked city council to have been doing the last 8 years, right? Instead, we've had, here's the cap, you're not to go beyond that. Don't show us a budget that has higher amounts. Show us this budget. I'm very happy to have staff come back and provide a range of scenarios that we can consider. But I do need to point out that's very different from how council has been operating for the last 8 years.
Correct.
I know this isn't council, but
Well, just to give you an example on that note, Jeff, so what Alex does at Geo is he gives us this budget that tells us exactly what we need, right? And we have a heart attack when we see it usually, because we know that there's no chance in hell that we'll be able to do that. But then he takes that to all the powers that be higher up, right? And he has the meetings with the ministers and says, this is what we actually need here, people. You're not going to give us this. And it's not one of these where you say, well, let's tell them we need, 500 million. We really only need, it's like, this is what we actually need. And we know we can't hire nurses. We can't hire this. We know we're going to have these pressures. This is what we actually need. And it is, whether it happens or not is a different thing. It's whether the truth is out there as to what is necessary. And obviously, nowhere, board's not going to say, yeah, be crazy, tell us the wrong thing. But we know officers are saying they haven't had the right training, right? This scenario here would mean they still probably wouldn't get training yet. And training is critical. So that needs to be there so we can tell the story. If you want to go with 2%, these are all the things that are not going to be done, right? And that's the story as well as city councils. When we go back to the meeting, say, well, they asked for 15%, we gave them 2. What the hell do you think? They don't call me and tell me you're not happy about this, that, and the other. When you also told me all you wanted was low property. Like that's the thing, right? That's why not rocket
Jeff,
science to always be truthful.
for someone been on council as long as I have and been on a police board as long as I have, all what I'm saying to you, the last police board budget was not a budget. I'm sorry. I was on the board. It was not a budget. It was wishful thinking, but it didn't happen. And now we are paying the price, Jeff. When I see how much overtime you spend on something, you could avoid a lot of it if you did the proper hiring and avoid a lot of people going sick, avoid a lot of people going on stress. But maybe we should rethink that it didn't work for us. Let's try something different. That's all I'm saying. But all I'm saying, let's present both hand in hand the labor force report with your budget and show them the picture. Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, it's okay. Tell me. This is my. I won't be. I'm not going to be here, but obviously, from my experience, I think the board needs to understand what the consequences of the budget is. When some in the previous board agreed to take money from reserve to that's not a balancing budget. Just tell us the budget, the one you need, and then it's up to us. Maybe we'll say, no way, we're not going to give you 7%, but that's okay. Then you tell them, hey, if you see over time, don't come blaming me for. But this is great budget. Its number is reasonable. I understand what we're going with this. Uh, Mayor elect, I met with him. Obviously, I briefed him on the police board, and I'm hoping, obviously, he's going to take a seat when he gets sworn in. And he will be working with the new chief and the executive on the budget. And obviously, it'll be up to them. But I'm saying to you, on your part, you owe it to the taxpayer, you owe it to your member, you owe it to the board to present a full budget. That's all. I'll stop.
Okay, I think that's great advice. We can take that away. And are we gonna be able to get another, like, in terms of what's the cadence on coming back? And
The product coming out of this is the budget, is just the budget direction. Of course, we're still working, we're not doing budget.
No, I
Okay,
understand. No, no.
So,
I
so I
understand.
mean, the next thing you'll see from us will be the budget direction report. The, at the November 28th meeting. So I think at that point, I mean, we'll have to have the discussion in session.
You know what I would suggest if I'm still here, I would suggest to have another committee meeting, FAC meeting before the 28th.
Yeah.
Have the committee feel comfortable with the number. This is what's going publicly now. Now we don't have public here or media here, but this is the number we're thinking about. How you and then you have a chance to get the mayor and the new chief and the new board member engaged with the budget they're going to vote on. But right now, I'm not going to be here. I'm not sure about other colleagues they're going to be here. So
My only concern with it, and I
okay,
100% agree, is just that the chief's calendar, and I'm just trying to see it. He is brief. We're doing a full brief on the budget on the 21st when he gets here. That's 4 days after he's sworn in. So it has to. It'll be a tight timeline because the board reports are posted, I believe, on the 23rd. So it's like it would have to be on like the 22nd. So we'll work with the board, try to figure it out. But I agree, we can come back together in some way, whether it be a full committee or just a series of conversations. We'll get it done.
yeah. If it can be a committee and you just reach out to the board member because I think the board need to know the consequence of those budget and the number.
I'd just like to raise that $2 million CSP grant into that. It's not an official. So in terms of meeting the instructions of the previous board, you're not doing. So I think that needs to be clear and.
Anything else? Is any other question? Any? So
when do we find out who's on this board or not? How does that work?
so right now they're selecting board chairs and committee chairs and stuff like this. And I guess every council put in their request what they like to do. I mean, I've been on a selection committee before, and we get everybody's. We try to give everybody their first wish. Maybe Jeff will say, I want to chair Bannon, but I don't need to be on the police. Perhaps I'm just saying, it doesn't have to be Jeff or you. Say, I want something. So we try to work out with all members and see that, try to get them the first priority, second, third choice. And then it's nothing going to happen before February, maybe January, if we're lucky to have established committee chairs, board chairs, all this stuff.
You're gonna have to do something. Sorry, I don't.
No,
We got deadlines.
I know,
Applications you gotta
I
move
know, I
forward.
know, and that's why we're talking to John and other like, if we can squeeze, doesn't have to be a official meeting, but briefing to some board members and the new executive with the new chief, the new mayor. This is where we're going, folks. For me, when I saw the labor force report, to be honest with you, that was more than just a wake up call. Hey, people, look what we're doing.
What was the total net new hiring out of that?
88 total, I think, for the 2 years. Am I correct? Yeah. So we avoid hiring for 2 years.
Oh, you mean the HR committee report in August? Yeah, 160 per year starting in 2024.
So, I mean, very, well, I mean, honestly, I mean, the goal of many of us is to try not to see that level of new hiring because we have alternative services in place.
And
And I assume, and I did read and I believe you're counting on the same level of volume of work. You're still responding to a certain level of calls and cases, but some of that factor is associated with population. Like when you're talking about hiring those additional new officers for the year, that is an anticipation that those officers are going to have to respond to a growing level of work in the city.
not really. Those numbers just to fill what you need currently. Now, for someone who was from day one on a community safety plan and well-being, I can tell you the province dragging their feet on it. They put no additional money to it after they promise us they will. Community safety plan well-being is not a police issue. It's actually municipality's responsibility to fund the community safety plan well-being. The municipality didn't have the money. So what they thought last time, oh, let's take from the police budget and put it toward the staff at the community safety plan well-being say, hey, we're not ready. We can't just do this. So they took the funding from the police. The police didn't do the hiring. Community safety plan well-being didn't get picked up, and they didn't produce one call from the police. So what the police in return do, start pushing overtime. Come work on a weekend, come work on your holiday, come do this. So we stack here and we didn't reduce here. And that's what happened. And it's not just here, to be honest with you, Ottawa. I still have colleagues I talk to because the community safety plan and well-being, that's something dear to my heart. And I know this province is somehow they don't think it's valuable of it. And unfortunately,
Get the big picture that we're looking at,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Which is
yeah.
big picture, we reduce calls, we alternative services, and that's.
but Jeff, don't
But
don't
well, no.
The only thing is, I think for
We wanna
now,
hear from the chief.
but we are kind of in the chief's territory now, though, these are operations, so not to say you guys can't discuss it, but there's hundreds of factors that I'm sure you would like to, so if Branda, if you could talk to Krista about a meeting of the 22nd, if you guys, we can see, we can start working it out. I want to make sure these are our now operational matters, whether, because, yeah, sure, these calls might go down, cybercrime is going to the roof, he might have some big opinions on these things, but I just don't want to jam him into a conversation that, you know what I mean?
But Jeff, just on your note, I do see that, and it's a great idea. It's just, it's not ready. Like, there's not a system there ready and it's working. That's the problem. So I think you do go, we're gonna assume it's not ready for the next 2 years. And if it is, then wonderful. Then we don't need 60 in the third year, we need 10.
How much money, what was the delta in the requested increase? Not good. What was that, yeah, what was that difference between the requested budget and for the police? Yeah. Versus the council. For 2.5 million, table that.
Yeah.
It's not enough money to do anything.
No.
And then we put that way in.
And I made that point, now that I'm saying, oh, look, I'm so smart. But the estimation was that it would be a $50 million event to try and have this alternate system, right? So it's $2 million. Like, are you kidding me?
No, we didn't spend it.
Yeah, that's the problem. But the theoretically fabulous idea, and that's where we should be working towards. But big movement.
And the other thing is that just ask us to consider is that I don't think this is the year in which we should be making big leaps on a new path, because the time frames are so tight.
That's right.
I think this has to be a placeholder. While more work is done with the new chief, a new board, new mayor, in terms of the December 2023 budget 2024, where a lot of good, unrushed thinking can go into.
All right, we have a suggestion here. There's funding was allocated in the past couple of years. I don't know, 2 years, somebody can help me here. It was $150,000 was allocated before in the budget for that money to be allocated to a community partner. Anyway, the COVID came in and that budget, that number never been used. So we still have it as a budget item. So what I would like to suggest that direction be brought forward at the November meeting, that additional permanent FTE be included within the board's 2023 budget, and that we look for saving internally to fund this position. I know there were funding previously set aside by the last board for work that was never completed. There was $150,000 in base budget funding added to the board's budget for community partnership fund that was never established. These funds have gone unspent for the last 2 years. So that was 1 year, but not 3 years. I think this fund can be better applied to more board staff, which can increase the board's capacity for community engagement and communication as an example. I would therefore suggest this committee recommend to the board at the November meeting that additional FTE be included in the board's 2023 budget and that saving be found internally to fund the position. So that the Finance Audit Committee at number 1 receive a briefing on the development of the 2023 budget. Item number 2, recommend a budget option to the board for its approval. That's a recommend, but I mean, we don't have to take the whole 150, but I think the board can decide that because if we can.
Reallocate that funding that is currently going into a community partnership.
Yeah, it has never done that.
To hire a new FTE for the service.
Correct. That could be debated. We don't make a decision here. We just make a suggestion. If the,
Can add that in, like, so
Yeah.
what happened was the board had set aside like 100K, and it was meant to be spent in like kind of dribs and drabs for 10K to do it, and it was supposed to be almost like a granting process.
Yes.
But it just never materialized because there's so many challenges with it. So it's just sitting there in the books, and I think that they're looking to identify it to give you guys more support, which I agree you need. But so that's
anyway, here is just recommendation, and the board will debate it on November. And,
in terms of just so we're clear on our direction, we're going to go back, speak to the chief,
yes.
give them a sense of this conversation, give them a sense of the options, and then build in the SSI. That's right. I think the acronym.
Mhm.
Into the back, somewhere in the report, so it'll be reflected in the report, and plus we'll consider the options and see how we want to present it.
That's fine.
Does that make sense?
Is that good?
And Randy, you're gonna make sure that you're gonna talk to Krista about a possible second entry.
Sure. Okay, if there's any other business, I guess our next meeting hopefully will be November 22nd with the new mayor, new chief. And, motion to adjourn if there's nothing else. Thank you. But before we leave, I want to say thank you to the staff. Look, if we are a little bit passionate about this because we saw what happened. I saw the report from the labor workforce. And I think that was more than eye-opener for me. So I hope you'll be successful with the new chief and a new mayor and present a truthful a budget we can live with and budget we can work with. And those artificial saving, really, we have to challenge them sometimes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.